Hey friends, welcome back to the Happy Homeowner Podcast, Outdoor Edition. My name is Dan Keller, and I believe that owning a home is the largest and most valuable asset we have, second to our time. As a veteran mortgage professional, investor, and Puget Sound angler, my commitment is to bring you content each week that will fill each one of these buckets in your life. Jump on board with us today, enjoy the show, and we'll see you back in the marina. Hey friends, welcome back to another edition of the Happy Homeowner Outdoor Edition podcast. We've got our favorite guest ever, Connor Martinis with John's Sporting Goods here with us. And we're knocking on the door of, well, we're in a spring market right now. This is April 2025. And I'm loving what the market's doing. The market's picking up. There's a lot of confidence, even amidst all the geopolitical stuff going on right now in the world. The market's hot, and so is fishing. Fishing's about ready to get screaming hot. We got Lingcod and halibut coming up. And right after that, we've got the Tulalip bubble. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more from Connor Martinis as we head into May. But what we wanted to do today, you've got a really cool kind of a fisherman's community event this Friday night down at Bayside Marine. Yep. We're going to do a Lingcod podcast down there. We're going to talk about the Puget Sound Lingcod. We fish them a little different ways. I like to run live bait down in the Puget Sound, and then up in the San Juans, you can kind of use artificial stuff. But yeah, trying to get the fishing community together, get us all talking and kind of ramped up for our Lingcod season. I love what you're doing. You just did one of these with the winter blackmouth. You're doing the same thing this Friday night, 7 p.m., Bayside Marine. And it's just a Lingcod workshop, a Lingcod seminar. You're going to talk about gear, a lot of what we're going to talk about today. But the really cool thing about these live meetups, Connor, is you get a lot of engagement and interaction from anglers that actually just get to, hang out. I'll sponsor happy hour from Scuttlebutt, and we'll have some, some beers there, but just a lot of really good, more like higher level type question and answers. And just, again, it's pretty cool getting everyone together, and then you end up seeing people out on the water and they're like, hey, Connor, hey, Dan. So yeah, we need to strengthen our fishing community for sure. And I think that's a really good way to do it. And, not everybody wants to ask the question on social media. So if you're at the seminar, it's an open forum. As I'm giving the seminar, you're more than welcome to ask me questions. And it actually makes my seminar go better if there's more engagement. So. I mean, you're going to bring, just like today, but in person, you're going to bring live gear. I mean, everything from rods, reels, to leader, to setups, to even the terminal tackle. But real quick, speaking about the community, we're going to have Dave Miller in. You and I are going to have him in, I think, in 2 weeks. He's out of the country right now, but he's the president of this Everett Salmon and Steelhead Club, right? Yes, he is. What a cool club to be a part of. I know you did a downrigger seminar, and I think you spoke at their most recent one. I don't know if there was it on Lingcod? Yeah, I did. Bottom fish? I've done multiple. I didn't do a Lingcod one there. John actually did my uncle, but I've done multiple for him. Yeah, it's a great club to get involved with. They definitely support the fishermen, and there's a lot of older gentlemen in there, so we're kind of trying to get some younger cats in there, and I think the more younger generation gets involved, the stronger that club will be. Yeah, it's your generation for sure, and I got a 16-year-old, my son, who's a really avid fisherman, and some of his friends, so we're trying to get some new blood. I mean, we're going to have him in to kind of talk about it, but he's a big advocate for Salmon for Soldiers. He's just a huge advocate for, obviously, salmon, local salmon and steelhead fisheries. But the annual fee is nothing, you guys. I mean, it's we spend that money on a half a tank of gas typically. And he does a monthly meetup down at the Fireman's Hall here in Everett. And the content is just incredible. They have food that they bring in. Last time was like chili dogs, and the time before your downrigger seminar and fresh, clam chowder. So I want to encourage you to listen to that episode, connect, and like Connor just said, we're trying to get kind of that next generation of angler excited. And here's the thing. Getting to hang out with guys that, like your uncle, that have been on the sound fishing for 30, 40 years, and you got them in a room, and you got some of these youngsters like my son, and even, someone like me who just really got cranked up in the last 10 years, can always learn something. Totally. So I wanted to at least drop that since we're talking about the community, but let's jump right in. So we've got Puget Sound Lingcod today. We're going to talk about two different areas, right? So we're going to talk right out our back door here in Area 9. And then we're going to move up into the San Juans, which, weather permitting, you and I are going to be up in the San Juans on the opener.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did that last year.
We try and do that every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an adventure, and the fishing up there is incredible. I mean,
yeah. Well, let's jump into it, man. We always start these. We got to do a little refresher on regulations. So let's talk about regulations, and then we'll get into some gear and tactics.
Totally. Okay, Lingcod for the last 20 years is open May 1st to June 15th. So next Thursday is our opening day. You're typically, the size regulation for Lingcod is 26 to 36 inches. No smaller, no larger. We are using barbless hooks, and on board, you have to have a descender, and yes, this is a part of the rules. You have to have this, and it has to be rigged on a rod.
Okay.
You gotta, you end up catching some rockfish. You're fishing rocky structure areas, and we want to deploy those rockfish back down to where they came from, and this is how you do it with a descender.
Okay.
120 feet of water or less you can fish in, and don't be afraid to get up into 30 and 40 feet of water. We've done that multiple times up in the San Juans. And a new rule, not a new rule, but a rule that I learned this year, if you're fishing, halibut's open 7 days a week, and this is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
Guys will fish, obviously, halibut over 120 feet. If you catch a lingcod and you're over 120 feet, no matter what, if you're halibut fishing or not, you have to deploy it back down to the bottom, and you do it the same way. You'd send them down on the descender.
Okay.
But those are your basic rules for lingcod. Yeah, nothing too fancy. They've been the same for 100 years, it seems like.
Cool.
But yeah, those are the main ones.
So since we're talking rules too, I know I was talking to a gentleman I think it was just leaving your store the other day, and he was saying, back in the day, he used to have some areas that he'd fish over by Hat Island for ling. Now, is it just Area 9, or are we talking just Area 9 and 7, or is it all open?
All of the Puget Sound is open. You're going to find more of your lingcod and lingcod spots in Area 9.
Okay.
There's definitely a chunk on the southwest corner of Hat Island.
Yep.
There's I don't know if it's an old ferry or an old bridge, but they did dump structure there, so a lot of guys fish that. Guys will even go as far as fishing Onomac up off of Camano Island. They have like kind of a reef. They've made a man-made reef up there that hold lingcod. Now, small areas get fished out a little bit quicker than normal, but I mean, Hat Island, there's a lot of guys that are really successful there.
Yeah, and that's why I think we like going up to the San Juans. There's, I mean, you can find a rock wall and just cast up against a rock wall and run into them. There's so many areas, you know, up there. And so what I would encourage you to do, we don't have the time today to talk about a bunch of hot spots. Message Connor, run into the shop, get your gear, and ask him for 2 or 3 hot spots, and he'll share a couple different areas. But let's talk about where you find lingcod for someone that, I got a couple of friends that are just kind of getting into lingcod. In fact, you're the one, I think it was 2 years ago. The first time I ever went lingcod fishing was with you. Had a blast with my son, and I'm kind of hooked now. So this is my 3rd season. So someone that's newer to fishing lingcod, or someone that's fished for years, what are you looking for, like structure wise, to find some of these guys?
We're looking for, I call them tabletops, so little upringings, and then you got dips off the bottom. They like to hang out on the tops of those. Possession bar is famous for this. There's a bunch of depressions in possession bar where it's almost a hole. You'll go from 60 feet down to 70 feet and then back up to 60 feet. Those lingcod will sit in those holes, and they're waiting for anything to go over the top of that hole, and then they're going to ambush it. So you're looking for depressions. In the San Juans, we look for reefs. Reefs are notorious for bait for lingcod. A bunch of little hidey holes in there. And then rock piles. You know, anything where a lingcod can get out of the current or kind of wedge itself in some sort of hole, and they can ambush from there. They're just looking for stuff to come across their face and ambush them. So yeah, any kind of tabletop reefs, any kind of depressions, any kind of rock piles, those are all money for lingcod. And like I was saying, don't be afraid to go in 30 feet of water. I mean, possession bar, for instance, we're typically in, I would say 60 to 100 feet of water. That's pretty normal. There's a couple man-made structures there that we like to fish, and they're 60 to 80 feet. But I've fished with many people where we're in 40 feet of water on possession bar. I mean, you're up on top of the bar, and you're doing your drifts over the top of those.
So we're going to talk about this at the end, but if you really want to learn how to do this and pay some money and hire a guide, which, 10 years ago, that's what I did. Whether it be out on the Puget Sound or even on Lake Stevens for Kokanee, I just went out and hired someone to learn. We got Captain Paul Kim, who's our, a really great fishing guide. He's been on the show numerous times down south. In fact, we fished Area 7 with him last year, and he's just a great captain.
Absolutely.
And then we got, one of our favorite, Ben Rosenbaugh, who I know for a fact is most likely going to be up in 7 on the opener. So reach out to both of those guys. It's Ben Rosenbaugh with Mixed Metals Outdoors. You got PK, Paul Kim, and down south. So, and they'll, here's the other thing. If you're out on opening day and you don't quite know where to go, one, come into the shop, buy some gear, ask Connor and his crew. Number two, if you just go out there, you're going to see boats. And where the boats are kind of clustered, they're clustered over reefs in certain areas. So obviously have some etiquette. But that's probably one of the easier ways because, possession bar, it's a bar and it's not an entire reef, right? So you got to find those different areas or rock clusters. So let's kind of get into gear, but I'm kind of going to tee up this podcast like how you guys taught me. It's like, so when you're out there, and let's just assume we're up in Area 7, for example, we're up in the San Juans and we're fishing, we're not necessarily fishing live bait, right? Is there, as you're dropping down or as you're, kind of just jigging, essentially, what are we feeling for? Are we, the second that we hit a tap, are we setting the hook? Or what are we trying to do here to hook more of these lingcod?
You're absolutely, when you're jigging or running these swim baits, I mean, I've brought these up with you. These storm swim baits, man. I mean, how many of these do I bring with me up there?
Oh, dude, packs.
100 of them?
Yeah.
These little storm swim baits, I've fished for, one of my buddies taught me how to fish these probably 6 years ago. And I literally, this is all I'll run up in the San Juan. Same color, same exact rig. When you're running these, that's why we run braided line. As something is grabbing this, I'm trying to set the hook immediately. Same with these little eels that fishermen golds make. Anytime you're jigging, you're vertically jigging, you're swimming a bait, any of that sort of nature, something touches this thing, I'm giving them the beans right away. I'm trying to plant that hook. They're going to grab it, and then they're going to realize, oh, crap, this isn't something that's alive or this is fake. I'm going to spit it out. So you have a time frame when they're going to grab these to set the hook. Now, live bait, you're totally opposite. You're going to let these critters eat it. You almost want them peeling line off of your reel. You almost can't wait long enough. I can promise you a lingcod will grab it on possession bar, for instance. We run a lot of live bait. They're going to grab it, and if they spit it out, they're coming back for more. It's not a matter of setting the hook with those guys, really. You want them to eat it and hook themselves, and then you're just pulling them up off the bottom.
That's why I asked that question. So completely different strategy.
100% different.
So you're going to feel them kind of like almost like maybe you're getting hung up on the bottom a little. You're going to feel a little bit of a...
We go as far as putting them in the rod holder, dude. I mean, we're literally dropping. I hit the bottom. And you don't have to be dragging the bottom on possession bar by any means. I mean, you could come up 6 or 8 feet off the bottom. Those lingcod are still, if they see something hooked up to they don't know it's hooked up to a line, but they think it's a wounded critter. So they're going to come up off the bottom and grab it. I mean, 6 or 8 feet is fine. I always hit the bottom, and I'm going to do a few cranks to get it up off the bottom.
So you made a point a minute ago when you've gone out with me for lingcod, you bring dozens of these packs.
Lots.
You're fishing the bottom. You're fishing rocky structures. You're fishing reefs. You're going to lose a ton of gear.
You're going to lose
them. So just FYI. Now, that's why a lot of people will go out. Let's kind of switch gears here to fishing Area 9, and how you're going to fish there. You like to fish Area 9 with live bait. So
100%.
What are you using for live bait? How do you catch that? And how much?
Okay. There's 4 different things we use on possession bar for live bait. And I'm going to put them in order of what I like the most to the least. My favorite is a pogie, a piling perch, a shiner perch. There's 3 to 4 or 5 names for them, but those little perch work absolutely phenomenal. A sculpin's going to be my number 2. That's a little bullhead, and they're hardy. You can catch multiple lingcod on them. They hold up really well, and they're the perfect little snack size for them. Then herring.
Oh, really?
We'll be drifting over possession bar, and we'll go through balls of herring. And I have a sabiki rod always rigged, so if I'm going over herring, I can drop down and catch herring. And then flounder's my number 4.
Okay.
A lot of people are probably going to question that and say, why is flounders number 4? For one, more people fish flounders than anything because they're easiest to catch.
Okay.
2, after 2 weeks, and I go with a guy, John Kernigan of Seeking Limits. Guy is an unbelievable lingcod fisherman. I mean, killed 92 lingcod off possession bar last year. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
We'll run one of each of these. So we have 4 different baits on 4 different rods.
Okay.
After 2 weeks, that flounder rod does not go off.
Really?
It's only the herring, the perch, and the sculpin.
Okay.
Yes. Now, and I think the lingcod, I've seen 10,000 of them by that time.
Yeah.
And they start to get smart. The ones that are you obviously catch the first week are not the smartest ones in the toolbox. And then after that, they get smart and they've seen enough of them where they know something's not right. Okay. But those little things, and the perch and the herring and the sculpin, they just swallow the whole thing.
So you're hooking these perch and these herring and these sculpin, you're hooking them up live.
Live bait.
These are live.
You got to keep them alive. And if you have a live well, that's awesome. A lot of guys will get just 5-gallon buckets and put aerators in them or a big cooler. You just got to make sure you want to keep these things alive. The more alive these guys are, the better they're going to fish.
So I've never done that. That's something I want to do with you this year is fish 9. Where would we go? I mean, piling perch, you can go find some pilings, go find some docks. I get that. But sculpin, little flounders, herring, obviously, you've got a setup over there that you can explain. We know how to catch those. You just go find a bait ball, right? And just drop down into a bait ball.
That's just drifting on possession bar over our lingcod spot, and we go over herring. And we'll add that to our arsenal. Cool. The sculpin and the flounders they're going to tend to hang out together. We fish an area where we don't really know if we're going to catch a flounder or if we're going to catch a sculpin. Columbia Beach is a great spot. Hat Island's a great spot. You could fish it on either side, the west end or the east side of it. Just right out on Mission Bar.
How deep are you guys?
It varies. It's funny. Like sometimes we'll fish up at Langley and we'll be in 60 to 100 feet of water. And then down on Columbia Beach, we'll be in 30 or 40 feet of water. Again, just like salmon, I generally start shallower, and if I'm not catching, I just work my way out. But yeah, you're kind of looking for those sloped sandy bottoms. That's where those critters like to hang out.
It's funny. We live on Richmond Beach, and I'll be like, what in the heck are these boats doing out in front of our house? What's opened right now? And they're out there catching
fishing
bait.
flounders.
Yeah. They're catching little.
It's a very underestimated. I mean, I remember my grandpa John, that was like an annual trip they would do. They would go catch flounders to eat.
Oh, really?
I mean, they're great little eating fish, and you keep 15 of them a person, so it's like you could have a pretty good fish fry. But yeah, so the spots we catch flounders, we're also catching sculpin. Like you mentioned before, the piling perch, we're fishing typically on the pilings. There's a bunch of them, in your boathouse. There's pilings there. I can almost guarantee you we can catch them in there.
Yeah, we should try that. Yeah, if it's legal. Yeah, you can fish in the marina.
Bring them up to the San Juans.
Okay. Yeah,
we should try.
We'll give it a shot. Yeah, up there I don't think we've ever fished live bait up there. We've just thrown up.
That's the benefit. You really don't have to.
No, I mean last year when we went with PK. We spent more time driving up there than actually fishing. Yeah. I think we were done. One pass over the bar, and we were like, all right, we're done.
Your kid killed like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And that was on one of those eels.
So I think he crushed it on this little guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
And I think the rest of them came on the gold. What do you call those? The brown or copper one?
Yeah. New penny, I think they call it, or something.
Yeah. Hudson was throwing this down there, and he outfished us.
The greens and the browns.
Yeah. Paul dropped a big old red. I think he was fishing. Wasn't he fishing like a West Coast or something? He dropped some big old.
He got the biggest one on it.
He did. Yeah. So we're going to go Area 9. You're going to want to fish live bait. Now, let's say you don't have an opportunity to go out and get live bait. I see a little guy right here. Would this work in Area 9?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. This is just a...
and you sell those at John's?
Oh, yeah. Sell hundreds of them. This is just a plastic flounder. It works. I'd rig it the same way that I'd run my live flounder, a double hook rig with the Slido in front of it. You can also put a jig head in it if you don't want to tie these snelled hooks. But yeah.
Hey, let's go over that real quick. So let's say that you're fishing live flounders or this. How are you rigging that? Where are you putting the hook through? All of that good stuff. Because let me show you. This is something that I just have never fished before. So type of hook.
Yep.
type of hook, and then how you're
I'm
putting
running
it on
it
there.
the same way we run the swim baits up in the San Juans.
Okay.
You have a Slido on your main line for your braid right here. So I'm doing Slido on my main line. You don't necessarily have to do a chain swivel, but you want to swivel underneath, and that's going to stop it in front of your leader. And for live bait, I run a little lighter leader. I run 40-pound leader instead of 50.
Okay.
And for the smaller critters, so herring, sculpin, and pogies, I'm running a single 3/0 circle hook.
Okay.
And then for the flounders is the only exception where I'll do a double hook setup. Okay. And I'm going to do, it varies. I mean, there's so many ways you could do this, but I do a 5/0 circle in the front, and then I trail it with a 5/0, 6/0 octopus hook. A lot of guys like the Big River bait hooks. Okay. But you're tying basically the same rig you would for hoochies, right? Your double hook rig. You're just going to put more spacing between them because those flounders are a little bit bigger.
And you're going to use a 40-pound, and then you're going to use... I see the octopus hook down here, and then you've got the...
we like running the circle hooks.
The circle up top.
We run the circle hooks up top, and that just holds those bait on. Holds the bait on a little better.
Okay.
And there's another trick to that as well.
So it looks like you're going through the bottoms. So going through the under part of the little... The little... What do you call these little sand?
Yeah, like if I'm running it on a live flounder, I'm going to go in his mouth. Okay. And I'm going to try and get it out of his eye socket without like puncturing his eye. There's just a little gap that you could typically slide it through. Okay. You don't want to go through their brain. You end up killing them. Okay. And the pogies and the herring are really susceptible to that. You'll kill them. They're not as hardy as the flounders and the sculpin. Okay. So in his mouth, out the top of his noggin, and I'm trying to thread it right through that eye socket. Okay. And it just sits there. Now, once you put that on, you have these gizmos called bait buttons. And you can see there's one on there already. Yep. And that's what's going to help hold that thing on there on top of that circle hook. Got it. Or another infamous one is the little buzz bomb bumpers. Okay. And you've never seen me run live bait, but these, again, it just helps hold that critter on there. They're swimming around and they're trying to get off the hook. So sometimes they can manage to poke themselves off. So
love it. Okay, perfect. So... Same thing with the sculpin. You're going to go through the mouth and out.
Trying to get it out his eye socket as best I can.
Okay. Yep. And you slide that little stopper right over the top. Yep. Okay, good. Now, as far as, this is really important. I think 2 years ago, boy, the tides just started, the current just started smoking through the San Juans. It made it really, really difficult. Yep. How important is that in 9 and 7?
Very important. Okay. I tell this to everybody that comes in the store. Every critter in the Puget Sound, from spot prawns all the way up to halibut, they are going to feed at a certain part of that tide, and it's when it's slowing down. Okay. So like planning our day, we want to get to the spot and be fishing at least an hour before it says the slack tide is, and we'll fish an hour past that. And that's that opportunity when the water's going to slow down to that perfect speed. It's usually, if the boat's drifting between 0.5 and 1.2 miles an hour, you're right at the sweet spot.
So think of it this way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of what I've learned. You got the top third-ish, maybe the top quarter, and the bottom quarter of a tide change. That in between is when that current's going to really pick up momentum. So like you were saying, an hour before slack, through slack, and then maybe an hour after is the optimal time.
Yep.
Okay,
that's
cool.
Right.
That's the same for salmon. Sometimes it doesn't get smoking crazy, but other times, up in the San Juans and the Straits, it can get crazy. So, absolutely. And I mean, over on Possession, you're wide open there too. There's a lot of water.
You get a lot of current there. Yeah. Yep. And boat control is super important. I mean, you saw Paul Kim last year. You got to use either your mains or your kicker. You're backing against the tide to slow the boat down. You don't want too much angle to your dangle. It's just there's just this sweet spot again that they like the speed of these things at a certain speed, and if you can hit that and maintain it, you're gonna have a pretty good day.
Love that. All right, so let's wrap with some advanced tactics. Before we do that, I kind of want to get in. We didn't talk about your rod and reel setup. Yeah. I know you gave last year when you came out with us, you ended up leaving your rod and reel setup for Hudson. Yeah. And he's gotten a lot of work. He actually goes, because we live down south, he's gone up during lingcod fish and right outside the Edmonds Marina, casting up against those. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the rod reel setup, I think it's a lot like that gray and black one. Yep. Walk us through what you're using for Lingcod, the type of rods.
Yeah.
You sell all of this stuff, by the way, down at John's.
Yep.
So what do you got over there?
There's multiple ways to do this. If you're on a tight budget, your salmon rods will absolutely work. Not necessarily a great rod to be jigging with, like jigging the eels, or you can run swim baits just fine. But if you're vertically jigging, it's nice to have a shorter rod. It's a little closer to you. They're typically one piece and they're a little stiffer, so you're not getting a bunch of flex out of your rod when you're jigging, so you're not working as hard. Personally, I like, this is a Daiwa Harrier. It's a 6.5 foot heavy. This is actually they call it a slow pitch rod, which would be like a tuna rod. But they're so light and they're so much fun to catch Lingcod on. I'm going to use this for running my swim baits, and I'm going to use this for running my eels or my Lancers or my Fisherman's Gold eels.
Would you use the same setup if you're a 9 running live bait?
John does it all the time. You totally can, 100%. I'm actually trying something new this year where I'm going to use a little different rod. But you're using 40-pound braid. I like running these little bait casters with the push button. It's just quick and easy. I can get stuff off the bottom really fast. And then again, if you're running live bait, your salmon rods are definitely going to work just fine. But if you wanted to be fancy like me, you can. This is actually a new. I haven't used this for live bait, but I think it's going to actually work really well. This is an 8-foot one piece. I like using one pieces for one, they're more sensitive. 2, they're less susceptible to break at the ferrule. Like your salmon rod, when you're putting 6 or 8 ounces on it, it's that weak point is where it breaks in half, right? But this is an 8-foot. This is a composite rod, which means when these Lingcod are grabbing my live bait, instead of my jigging rod where they're going to feel tension pretty quickly, this rod's going to load up for them, so they're more apt to hang on to my bait instead of letting go. You could totally jig with this too up in the San Juans. Again, it's a little longer, so you're going to be working a little more. This is actually be a really good swim bait rod, because swim baits you're sending to the bottom, hitting the bottom and bringing it up, and you're just hanging on to your rod. So this would work for that too. But again, this is an Akuma Guide Select Classic. They make a 9-foot 3 for like guys who troll for salmon off a downrigger. I've seen those work really well for Lingcod. You can totally use that. But me, myself, I like being a little fancier, so I get a rod kind of for everything. These Travalas and these Harriers work really well. Kind of what I'll
tell you what, you get out there and you'll jig a few times and you'll want the lighter weight. You'll start to feel it in your forearm and your wrist. The other really good thing too is because you are trying to stay as close to the bottom as possible, having the on those bait casters, I don't even know what you call that.
It's a one-hand operation.
It's just so great being right there. Okay, closing remarks, advanced tactics. Tell us something that we didn't know.
I told you a lot. Again, boat control is extremely important. Keep your bait alive if you can. That's really important. Once that stuff starts dying, like if you're keeping it in a 5-gallon bucket, keep dumping salt water into it maybe every 30 minutes just to keep the water cool. And you got to keep oxygen in the water for the critters.
Yeah, you can go on Amazon and get one of those little aerators that you hook right onto the side of a 5-gallon bucket too. So that helps.
Nothing too. And up in the San Juans, I do use scent on my stuff, and a little secret scent that I like to use is shrimp.
Oh, cool.
I've caught a lot of Lingcod up in the San Juans with a belly full of shrimp. So I have one of those little spray bottles with the shrimp scent. I do like doing that. Other than that, I think I told you everything.
So I'm going to throw something out there. This isn't a tactic, but you're going to be out there and you're going to catch a Lingcod, and it's going to have this kind of like beautiful neon greenish blue tint to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not nuclear. Talk to us about that. And it's not even the diet. It's just we found this out by a biologist. I mean, PK is like the smartest fisherman. He knows everything, and he kind of gave us a tutorial on what those are.
It's just the pigmentation in their skin and their meat. They're the same exact as a Lingcod that you caught that was orange or brown. They just have a little different pigmentation to them. And once you cook those fish, the meat will actually be blue. But once you cook it, that blue kind of it disappears. It'll be white meat.
There's nothing wrong with them.
No, they're the best. They're really cool.
I got another question for you too. Like greenling, when you're up in when you're up in the San Juans, you got a chance of catching those. Are those Can you keep those? Is that legal to keep those?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Yep.
Those are good eating.
I've eaten them too. Yeah, they're definitely good to eat. A lot of guys will run those for live bait up in the San Juans.
Okay.
The other one that I forgot to mention that we used to do a lot in the San Juans is we would mooch herring.
Okay.
Just like you would for salmon, almost mooch herring, cut plug a herring and send it down on a banana sinker. Okay. Works pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think Nate did that last year with us, and then these these eels just, it was an eel show.
The eels and those swim baits, I mean, we've done it a long enough time now to where I've kind of like figured out what works the best, and we've never not caught in Lingcod up there. Yeah. It's pretty fun.
So you're gonna watch this video or this podcast before your meetup at Bayside on Friday. So come out. Join us this Friday, 7 p.m., Bayside Marine. Listen to Connor live. I'm sure there's going to be some other, some of our guide friends down there to maybe answer some questions as well. Tons of information. We're just, like I said at the beginning, knocking on the door of primetime fishing season. So we'll have you in here probably every other week for the next couple of months, getting you ready. After Ling, we got a really good bubble episode coming up, to lay the bubble episode. So I can't wait for that.
We got shrimp.
We got shrimp. Yeah, we already got those dates.
Got the dates for shrimp, May 21st.
Yeah. We should definitely do a kind of an upgraded kind of tutorial on that. I know it's really hard with the times they're giving you in the 8-2, but we'll end up probably going back up to 6 or 7 for those. But anyways, you guys, I hope this was valuable. Do me a favor. Like I always say, if you found this valuable, number one, go into John's Sporting Goods right down here on Broadway and get your gear from Connor and his team. Pick their brains. He'll tell you everything you need to know. He'll give you some spots to go. Number two, go give these guys a 5-star review. If you found this information valuable, that helps increase his rankings on Google, and it'll drive more traffic to his store. We like to support local around here in Everett. So appreciate you taking time out of your day. We got to get you back to the shop, and we'll see you out on the water. Bye for now.